In this video, I'm going to describe a method for trapping floats in Tunisian intarsia crochet, both when your bobbin is moving forward to the left and backwards to the right. Generally, when you're working Tunisian intarsia crochet, when you change colors, you get these dotted lines. With this method, we'll get dotted lines on the tops and bottoms of our color blocks as well. For this pattern, I'm currently moving my blocks to the left. So for the next row, just like we did here, this is going to be yellow, and then pink, and then blue. So all of these are moving to the left. And to do that, I'm just going to trap the floats as I move left. Later, we'll talk about going to the right. There's a timestamp in the description if you'd like to skip there. So I'll start as normal. Now my yellow stitches are going to continue, but I happen to have the pink here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trap the pink until it gets to its place. So I will bring it up, stitch underneath it, keep it behind, stitch normally, and alternate every time. Bring it up, stitch underneath it, drop it behind, stitch normally, bring it up, stitch underneath it. So what this is doing is the pink is weaving in and out of those yellow stitches. Now my yellow is finished and it's time to stitch with the pink stitches, but I actually have 3 colors here. So yellow is finished, it goes to the right. Pink is what I'm going to be using. Blue is here, but I'm going to want it to be there. So now I'm going to be trapping the blue. So I bring it up, stitch underneath it, drop it behind, stitch normally, bring it up, stitch underneath it, drop it behind, stitch normally, bring it up, stitch underneath it. Okay, once again, I have 3 colors. The pink is finished. I'll move it to the side. Blue is what I'm going to start with, because again, I'm moving to the left. Green, I want to be 5 stitches over. So I'll be trapping the green this time. Pick it up, stitch underneath it, drop it back, stitch normally, pick it up, stitch underneath it, drop it back, stitch normally, pick it up, stitch underneath it. Now finally, I'm going to use the green and I'm going to push the yellow forward. So pick up my yellow and stitch underneath it, stitch normally, pick up my yellow, stitch underneath it, stitch normally, pick up my yellow, stitch underneath it. And now I'm going to finish the row in yellow. So now I've managed to move everybody forward. And on the back, I don't have any long floats. I just have these nice dotted lines. The return pass is going to be worked normally, so I'll put that in fast motion. The next row isn't going to have the colors move. I'm going to have pink on top of pink and blue on top of blue. After that, we'll move to the right. Now, when you move your floats to the right, it's a little bit more complicated because you have to plan the row before on the return pass. So the next row is going to be totally normal. The forward pass is going to be normal. On the reverse pass, I'll do some planning. So let me do the forward pass and I'll meet you on the other side. So I'm ready to do my return pass. I've done the first few stitches, but now is when I need to start planning for the next row because the next row has my colors moving to the right. So when I do my return pass, if I were doing this normally, I'm done with the yellow, I would drop the yellow and pick up the green, which I'm still going to do. But if I left the yellow here, for my next row, I'd be out of luck because for my next row, I want the yellow to be here. So in preparation, I'm just going to drag that yellow back with me. So just like we did before, every other stitch, I'm going to pick up the yellow and stitch underneath it. So normal stitch, pick it up and stitch underneath it, normal stitch. So now I'm going to switch to the blue. The yellow is just going to stay here, and on the next row, it'll be exactly where it needs to be. So now I pick up the blue, But I also want to move my green to the side so it'll be where it needs to be for the next row. So pick it up, stitch underneath it, let it drop back naturally, pick it up, stitch underneath it, let it drop back naturally. And now my green is where it's going to need to be for the next row. All right, now it's time for pink, and I'm going to bring my blue back. So normal stitch, pick up the blue and stitch under it, normal stitch, pick up the blue and stitch under it, normal stitch, and finally it is time for yellow, this yellow. And again, I want my pink to move to the right because in the next row, it's going to be on the right. So, normal stitch, pick up the pink and stitch under it, normal stitch, pick up the pink and stitch under it, normal stitch, and then normal to the end. So I've finished the row where the colors from the front don't seem to have moved, but on the back I have brought my floats forward to prepare for the upcoming row. Because I prepared for this row on my last return pass, all of my yarn should be just where it needs to be. This is where my pink starts, and that's just where my pink is. This is where my blue starts, and it's just where my blue is. This is where my green starts, and it's just where my green is. And finally, this is where my yellow starts, and it's just where my yellow is. And my return pass goes the normal way. And there you have it. I moved everything one to the right. I had to plan on the return pass of this row, the row before, but then when I got to this, everything was super simple, and the back looks perfectly fine.